The test is like a horse with the four legs broken. What do you have to do with a horse that have the four legs broken? Sure. Yeah.
There are hotbeds of innovation going on in public schools that are being ignored. And in fact, my school is, under threat of closure because we haven't met our annual yearly progress. But that's not because we're not doing quality education. And when people come in from the state and talk to us and ask us why, if you're doing such great education, why aren't you doing well on the tests? I say to them, you're asking the wrong question. The question is, if we're doing such great education, what is wrong with your tests? Why aren't your tests responsive to what real educators know is good for our children?
What we need are schools which are humane places, where children are treated as individuals with strengths and weaknesses, all of which can be addressed, and not as simple data points.
Now more than ever, it's time for our communities to come together in support of one another. Whether we're struggling in our unions, in our workplaces, or right on the ground in this K through 12 struggle in our schools.
We want to be partners in this system, not competitors, as we feel like we've been for the last 10 years.
We must go forward together, but in a means that is principled, democratic, and progressive for our children's sake.
The reform movement should definitely include parents coming to the table to be engaged and mostly empowered, where we have more checks and balances with the parent and the community input.
The people closest to the problem get together and through discourse and debate develop solutions that are appropriate to the local problems in front of them. And we've really lost that with centralization. In New York City, it's through the force of mayoral control.
We definitely need to increase parent engagement in the schools, create the perfect dialogue for parents and teachers to engage and be a part of the classroom setting, because all the data, the real data, shows that parents are the integral part and the key part of any child's success in education.
They need to be more focused on the children, focused on the teachers, focused on community, focused on parents. If you get those three together, everything else will fall in place.
Real reform would include the kinds of practices and policies that corporate reformers choose for their own children, but have long denied ours. Real reforms would include small class sizes so that children get the individual attention that they need. Real reform would include equity in funding so that all children would receive a world-class education. Real reform would include anti-racist educational policies and a culturally relevant curriculum so that our schools are responsive to the communities and the children they serve. Real reform would include more teaching and less testing so that we grow critical thinkers and thoughtful and engaged citizens. These are the real reforms that would build the foundation, allowing education to be the vehicle for social justice in our nation.
The teachers and the parents, we all have this understanding that we want the best for our children and that we're not going to stand back and let anything prevent that.
This is an education system. It's not a business. Thank you.
We teach children by what we say and by what we do.
There's the explicit instruction we provide in class every day. We teach literacy, mathematics, history, art, science, the knowledge and skills we think children need to be successful.
But we teach children in another way as well. We provide implicit lessons by what we do.
We're supposed to live in a democracy. What are we teaching young people when we reorganize schools to make them less democratic?
We teach students about the importance of voting, but then hand their education over to unelected millionaires and billionaires.
What are we teaching when we make our schools compete for resources?
We're teaching the wrong lessons.
We can't accept the status quo, but we also can't accept Wall Street's vision of education reform.
Instead of educating some children by lottery, we think it's time to demand a high-quality education as an inalienable right for all children.
Instead of spending billions to bail out people who are already wealthy, we think that this country needs to start bailing out regular people.
It's time to demand that this country use its tremendous wealth to do something about poverty, about racism, hunger, and homelessness. Blaming these problems on educators is just a convenient way to do nothing at all.
Instead of attacking educators, we need to support educators. Instead of closing schools, we should be building schools.
Instead of showering only some children with tremendous resources, we have the ability in this country to give every child a world-class education.
That's the kind of reform we need. We can't get it, though, unless teachers, parents, and students stand together to demand it.
We need you to join us today. Get involved in this struggle. Make your voice heard. And when you do, you'll be teaching the most important lesson of all.
A lesson also taught by the great abolitionist Frederick Douglass over 100 years ago, when he said, "If there is no struggle, there is no progress."
Parents, educators, and children must unite to protect public education, the pillar of our democracy, and we must stand together and demand real reform right now. Don't wait. The hero is you.
Are you waiting for the Savior? Or hoping something to believe? Don't lay down watching your life pass you by and wonder why dreams don't come true. Wake
I kind of like this of like kind of leaning in for the last part.
Wait. Hold on. I got that picture. I think I was looking at she's a little bit in shadow, but She's almost died. She almost died making it.
Outtakes. Attention, please! Will the real education reformers please stand up?
The so-called new reform movement is in fact a sheep in wolf's clothing.
In 2010, movie director
Is the sun okay for you?
The sun is fantastic. I'm glad it's there.
Okay, good. All right. So let's so stand over here. Stand behind Julie.
Put your coat on.
Will Julie hold the papers?
Yeah, you can put your coat
Back
on.
a little. Okay. Brian, you talk to her now, because she's doing all the talking.
What are you trying to say?
Yeah, thank you.
Please stand up! Please stand up!
So, we're free. There'll be free, prison pipeline, the charter school. I can stop at any point. So, okay, just, let's start with whatever issue you want.
Julie, he's in our telephone book, so it could be his height. Why don't you pop the chair up instead of I'll tilt the camera. Okay.
So this is the first one.